Okay, Rabbi Sai, let's get started with Tevilas Keilim. Okay, third week of Tevilas Keilim, we're getting involved. Now we're up to the point of how do you actually toivel the keli? What do you need to do? What's the process? What's the steps? Let's look at it. Let's get involved. So, number one, before your toivel, we have to remove all the chatzitzas. What are chatzitzas? They're things that are on the surface of the keli that prevent it from getting fully surrounded and submerged with water, and therefore, if there is a chatzitza, the wrong type, the tefillah will not count. Okay, so let's get started. So something that covers most of the item will be a chatzitza, and that will be a problem. I don't care whether you want it there or you don't want it there. If it covers most of the item, the tefillah does not count. What about which is going to be 99% of our cases, when there is something covering a minority of the item, a small percentage of the item, a little small thing. Does that little small thing, that sticker, does that passel the tefillah? Well, it depends. If it's something that you care about, it's something that you don't want there, it's something that you plan on removing in the future, then the tefillah does not count. You're makbid on it. A miyat she makbid, it passes the tefillah midrabanan. But if it's something that you don't care about, it doesn't bother you, you have no plans of taking it off in the future, then it's a miyat she'ena makbid, and tefillah is fine. It works. Even though it's on it, it's not a problem. The tefillah is still valid. Now, let's say after 3 years, you've been using this item, this plate, this serving dish for 3 years, and then you notice in the bottom of the plate or in the bottom of the dish, there's a sticker there. Is that a problem now? Do you have to be toivel now? Well, I think most people are going to say, who cares? I didn't notice it for 3 years. It doesn't bother me now. I don't need to take it off. It doesn't make a difference. Then tefillah would not be required. However, if it bothers you when you see, you go, oh no, I got to take that sticker off. I got to be toivel. I got to take the sticker off. I can't have a sticker on my serving plate. Then tefillah would be required. Now, the basic kunz is, the basic yesod is, let's just actually speak one more thing. What if the sticker doesn't come off? This is very important. You start trying to take the sticker off, maybe you even got it half off, but that stubborn sticker does not want to come off. Is that a problem? So first of all, try some gugan. For those that aren't American, what is gugan? Gugan is something that takes the goo and makes it gone. That's gugan. Okay, so you use some gugan, some WD-40, whatever your bubby told you is the special thing that gets off the stickers, and you try to get the sticker off. Now, just a little very basic aside is sometimes it's a lot easier to do this in your kitchen than it is on the side of the mikvah. So sometimes it might be better or easier to take off those stickers at home than before this being at the side of the mikvah. Okay, so you're trying to get, you Google on it, you WD-40, it's not coming off. Is that a problem? So if it doesn't come off, or it's so difficult that it come off that you wouldn't bother trying to take it off. Listen, I could get it off in half an hour, but I'm not going to do that. It's not worth my time. Then it's not considered makbid. And why is it not makbid? Because you're not makbid to take it off. It's not kedai for you to take it off. And if it's not kedai for you to take off, and you're not makbid to take it off, then memela, no tefillah would be required. That's even though you're not happy about its presence there. You wish it wasn't there. Still, no tefillah required. Okay, great. Now, what about something that, is coming a little bit off? You really would want to take it off. I just can't be bothered right now. I'm too lazy right now to take it off, but I plan on taking it off in the future. Then, your tefillah won't count. It's going to be a chatzitza. That is a problem. So makbid is defined on whether you plan on taking it off in the future. Okay, so that's chatzitzas in a nutshell. Now it's time to figure out the bracha. What is the nusach of the bracha? The nusach of the bracha is al Tevilas Keilim. Now, The shach brings the bach and the iser v'heter, who they have the girsa of al Tevilas Keilim as the bracha. And apparently I was informed that there's a lot of these old siddurim. Some of these old siddurim actually have that girsa in the siddur of al Tevilas Keilim. And some people, even though it's rare, have the minhag of making an al Tevilas Keilim. Now, if it's your minhag to make an al Tevilas Keilim, go for it. But for everyone else who has the minhag of al Tevilas Keilim, or most of us who don't specifically have any minhag in this regard, then the halacha would be make a al Tevilas Keilim. Now, what if you're only toivel one item? Keilim is plural, multiple. What if you're doing one item? I am coming here to be toivel this one spoon from IKEA. What do you make? So, according to the Shulchan Aruch, you make a al Tevilas Keilim, singular. The Ramah does not argue. So therefore, seemingly, you would make a al Tevilas Keilim. Now, this is much more common than the last. Some people have the minhag that they aren't mishana in the tzura of the bracha, and therefore they make a al Tevilas Keilim. They don't change around the bracha. They make a al Tevilas Keilim even on a singular item. If that's your minhag, go for it. That's fine. And if you don't specifically have a minhag, one way or the other, then the right thing to do is make a al Tevilas Keilim on a singular and al Tevilas Keilim on two or more kelim. Now, let's say you would be toiveling one kli which certainly needs a bracha, and another kli which is just a chumrah, or a suffix bracha, or just a chumrah, then you for sure make al Tevilas Keilim because you want the bracha to go on both of the items. Okay. Now, fine. Apparently there's some people that have this minhag that we never make brachas on Tevilas Keilim. I don't care what you're being toivel. I don't care if it's something that is chayiv in brachas l'kuli alma, that spoon from IKEA that I just discussed. There's nothing to discuss. It's absolutely pasha that it's chayiv in a bracha, but some people have the minhag apparently that they don't make brachas. Very strange. I usually don't like talking against people's minhagim. I don't like telling people not to keep their minhag if that's their minhag. But this one is just strange. I mean, everybody says, all the achronim, all the rishonim, everybody makes a brachas on Tevilas Keilim. Where does this come from? Not to make a bracha. What type of minhag is it to go against the din from everywhere? It's very, very strange. Definitely, if it's not your minhag, certainly don't sign up for this minhag. It's not a proper minhag, l'cha'ira. I don't know what to say. Somebody wanted to tell me it comes from the fact that there's so many sveikas, and a lot of people don't know the halachos of when you're supposed to make a bracha, when you're not supposed to make a bracha. So learn the halachos! Listen to the shiur, there's number 3, and then you'll know whether to make brachas or not. Ask a shayla, have a rav. I don't understand it. Definitely don't sign up for this minhag. If it is your minhag, I'm not going to tell you not to do your minhag because I don't want to do that. I'm going to tell you, ask somebody big whether you should continue with this minhag. I don't want to be the one to say, but it rubs me the wrong way. Okay, that rhymed. Okay, now, weiter. Now, preferably you should say the bracha standing and it should be in your right hand at the time that you make the bracha. It should be without chatzitzas. The chatzitzas should already be removed, the stickers off, etc. You make the bracha and you dip it in. And there should not be, if you're doing multiple items, there shouldn't be a hefsek from the bracha until you finish the last item. So actually, sometimes it can be easier to first take off all the stickers, have it all ready set to go, make the bracha, and do one by one each dipping. If in the middle you need to discuss something about the tefillah, you certainly could. You could say, do you know if this needs to be toiveled? Do you know if I'm supposed to separate these two parts before being toivel them, or am I supposed to toivel them when they're together? Doing things like that are certainly fine. Now, if you did make a hefsek, you probably will not make a new bracha. It's going to be similar to, we're going to be saimich to treat it similar to, the sheikhet makes a bracha at the beginning of the 4-hour shift, and then he has plenty of hefsiks. He schmoozes with the sheikhet next to him in between the shchitas, and we say it's fine. You make your birchas Torah the entire day, etc. So there are some times where you make a bracha that's going to last for a long time, and therefore, even if you had a hefsik, as long as you're still by the mikvah over there, you are not going to make a new bracha. If you go back and you come back 3 hours later, you would make a new bracha. Now, if you have multiple people coming to be toivel, a bunch of us are coming together to be toivel, we have a whole huge amount of stuff to be toivel, there's no problem for each of us, everybody to make their own bracha and everybody to be toivel. Spread it out. Why not? Now, a katan can make a bracha and can be toivel as long as he has adult supervision. We're going to discuss that in greater detail coming up. Now, if one realizes in the middle that, wait a second, I didn't make a bracha. So, let's just actually say, if at the end, he does the last thing, he dips the last thing, and he says, I didn't make a bracha. It's actually fascinating. What if it's the last thing's in there, or it's one thing, it's already in the water? Is the it the bracha before you dip, or is it the coming in or coming out? The Pashta says it's the coming in that you would say that you've done the Tevilas Keilim, not the coming out. But I think there is debate on this. Okay, so let's say you finished. You ready? The last item came out of the mikvah. Do you make a bracha now? Oops, I missed it. Now, first of all, you should all know the tefillah counts. Even if you didn't make the bracha, the Tevilas Keilim is still perfectly fine, and the tefillah is perfectly valid, even though you didn't make that bracha. But the question is now, could I make that bracha? So, when it comes to most mitzvahs, we say there's a halach of over lasiyasan. You have to first make the bracha, then do the mitzvah. So let's say you already blew shofar. You can't wake up and say, oh, I want to make the bracha now. Sorry, it's too late. You're already laying the Megillah. Now you want to make the bracha on Kriyas Megillah? Sorry, Charlie, it's too late. You missed it. You woke up too late. There's a din of Tevilas Keilim. Is Tevilas Keilim the same thing, same deal, same rule? So let's examine. Zeter V'Kiv Eger, Sarchin. He doesn't know. Why? Because when it comes to the tefillah of a ger, when the ger is being megayer, the ger is first toivel and then makes the bracha on his tefillah. When it comes to tefillas nashim for Ashkenazim, Sfardim don't pass in this way, but for Ashkenazim, the woman is first toivel and then she makes the bracha. When it comes to Netilas Yadayim before, in the morning or before Amoitzi, what do? We first wash our hands and then we make the bracha. It's some form of a loy plug based off ger. Now, and Tevilas Keilim is a little bit different point of your hands being tamei and making the bracha, etc. Put that aside for now. I don't want to open up too much of a discussion in that regard. But Lamaisa, we're going to say that in the world of tefillah, we see there's a lot of times, even though by Tevilas Keilim we say that make the bracha beforehand, but there's a lot of instances where we make the bracha afterwards. Therefore, there's a tzad to say that the bracha should work afterwards. I would add that if you're still toiveling things, which, even though you generally wouldn't make a bracha on those items because it's a suffix, it's a chumrah, etc., but if you're still in the middle of toiveling the items that don't really require a bracha, then you for sure, I would say, can make a bracha and continue toiveling those things because you're still in the middle of the general matzif of Tevilas Keilim. Fine. Now, the tefillah needs to be done in a kosher mikvah. What is a kosher mikvah? Now, this is a big shocker for most people. Most men's mikvahs are not good enough. You know that sign that it says on top of the men's mikvah, don't toivel keilim here, it's not because they don't want you breaking that glass bowl and getting on the bottom of the men's mikvah. Happens to be that will be a pain in the neck for everybody, and they don't want that happening. It's true. But that's often not the only reason. Most men's mikvahs aren't good enough, aren't to the standard that we would rely on for Tevilas Keilim. That's why it needs to be in a higher quality place. So most men's mikvahs don't count unless you know, hey, this is one of those men's mikvahs that those people that go up to Har Bayis rely on this men's mikvah to be toivel because the higher level men's mikvah, then it could be relied on. That doesn't mean I'm saying you should go up to Har Bayis. Don't put words in my mouth. But those people that go up to Har Bayis know that there's special mikvahs that will work for them. So if you know this is on the list, then you actually could be toivel keilim in that mikvah. But the high majority of men's mikvah, it doesn't work. Now, where could you do it? You could do it in a natural spring, obviously a keilim mikvah, which was designed properly. Or a women's mikvah, you'll be able to be toivel keilim. Or you could toivel keilim in a natural spring. Or the ocean. So you're making that barbecue, geschmack barbecue next to the mayan, next to the spring, next to the ocean, by the beach. Whatever, you could be toivel the brand new grill plate, grill plate. You could be toivel that in the ocean. You could be toivel that in the mayan. Now, what about a man-made lake? So that is usually not going to be good. I'm not going to get too involved. Sometimes when you make the man-made lake, they actually hit the below earth water source, and therefore it could be good. But most of the time, it's not going to be good. When it comes to moving water, when it comes to whether we call it a river or a spring or a brook or a river or whatever type of moving water. So, in short, if it hasn't rained recently, then it's generally going to be good. Because we know that this water must have an underground source and must not just be flowing rainwater. However, if it has rained recently, then it kind of depends. Pretty much, if you know that it's based on an underground source, that should be fine. And if you don't know, it would be a problem. For a more detailed discussion into what waters, which sources actually work and don't work, you could listen to my shiur from last year, Shovim number 4, which is regarding Tevilas Nashim. It's near the end of the shiur, so you could listen to that part for greater detail. Now, the Shulchan Aruch says, how actually are you toivel? How do you do the process of sticking the item in? So the Shulchan Aruch says that one can be toivel an item with a loose grip. Don't hold it tightly, because then there's going to be a chatzitzas. The water is not going to be able to get in between your finger and the item. But if you have a loose handle on it, the water will get in. It's all good. The Ramah says your hand should be wet with mikvah water. Now, if your hand's wet, so there's going to be water everywhere. Now, why does your hand need to be wet specifically with mikvah water as opposed to from a water bottle? The truth is nobody really knows. It's a big kasha in the Ramah, because seemingly it really should be no difference, because once your wet hand would go into the water, there would be hashka, and it would turn the water in your hand into mikvah water. If you know what I'm talking about, great. If not, it's also okay. But there's a big kasha on the Ramah without getting too involved. So, Lamaisa, how would you do it according to the Ramah? And this is how the Ramah paskins. One of the practical, easiest way to do that is you stick your hand under the water. Then you take the item and you stick it into the hand. And then, you put your left hand under the water. You stick the item in your right hand. You hand over the item from your right hand to your left hand, which is already under the water. And then the left hand puts it under, and that's toiveled. Great. Excellent. Now, the Shach brings down that it seems to be it's a chumrah. You're better off to take it, let go for a second, and catch it, which is the way that I always grew up doing it, because you want to make sure you're not touching it. So you let go, and then you catch it. We know by Tevilas Nashim you're not supposed to hold the lady's hand even loosely. Gezerah atu, holding it tightly. Over here by Tevilas Keilim, it seems that we didn't say that Gezerah, and we allow you to hold it loosely. The Shach is a whole question. What's the difference? Why won't we say the Gezerah? It seems from the Rambam it should be a problem even by Keilim, etc. So the Maisa, the Iker Din is you're allowed to do, as I said with the Rambam, and it's even considered Lechatchila to do as the Ramah, even Lechatchila to do as I said in the Ramah, that you could put your left hand in the mikveh water and pass from your right hand to your left hand. However, if you want to take on a Chumrah, then it would be to quickly let go of the item and then recatch it. And it happens to be many people hold it's also much more fun to do it that way, to let go and catch it. That's personally how I hold. I hold it as more fun, and that is how I do it. Now, if it's those really fancy crystal glasses, then maybe hold up a second. Now, you could also put in one of those baskets. But one thing to make note with those baskets, especially if you're stuffing up the basket with a lot of stuff, you should shake it up and down, shake it up a little bit to make sure water gets everywhere. Now, a good way to be toivel on an electric item. Let's say you have an electric item, and I said before I'm not so happy with the halachos Yaakov saying it's mechuber lakarka. So let's say you want to be toivel electric item. Now, but I'm scared the water is going to ruin the screen. Or the water is going to get into the holes, for whatever is supposed to be, a plug or whatever it is. So what you could do is you stick your left hand right below the surface of the water, a half an inch below the surface of the water. You take the whatever it is, the Keurig machine or whatever it is, and you stick the screen or the holes, whatever the sensitive part is, directly on your hand, which is a half an inch into the water. And then you hold it tight against the screen, and then you stick your hand all the way in. That way, you're not going to have tons of water pressure going in onto the screen or the hole or whatever. You quickly dip under and you take it out. And that would be, according to the Ramah, a perfectly fine way of being toivel, and there was no tons of water pressure running into that hole or into that screen. So that is a technical way of doing it. Can I trust my kid to be toivel my keilim, my utensils? So, if he is over bar bas mitzvah, the halacha is yes, you're allowed to trust him to be toivel those keilim. If he is under bar bas mitzvah, no, you can't trust that kid to be toivel keilim. But what if it's like an 11-year-old, 11-year-old Israeli girl? Meaning, I don't mean like 11-year-old American girl that needs to be, somebody needs to take her to watch somebody be toivel the keilim. I'm talking about like the 11-year-old Israeli girl that she goes, in the one hand pushing the double stroller to the Keilim mikvah, and in the other hand she has the wagon with all the stuff, and she's walking along with watching her 7-year-old and 5-year-old siblings as well, bringing them to the Keilim mikvah, and she has it all under control. You know what I'm talking about? I have one of those, by the way. So she knows what she's doing. She knows the halachos of Tevilas Keilim. That's not a problem. You could trust her. You trust her to watch the 7-year-old, the 5-year-old, the 3-year-old, and the 1-year-old. So you could trust her to do Tevilas Keilim as well, right? No. If she's below bas mitzvah, or if you have a boy below bar mitzvah, you cannot trust them to do Tevilas Keilim. What's wrong? Why can't the katan be toivel? So the Taz brings two possibilities. One possibility is that they won't have the proper kavanah, and you need the proper kavanah. The second possibility is you can't trust them that they actually did it. They don't have their manas. And there's a halacha, there's a din manas that you need to have to trust somebody, and they don't have their manas. Mela, they come back, they say they were toivel. You can't trust them. Oh, what if the keilim, the utensils, smell like mikveh water? Still, you can't trust them. It doesn't mean they put it all the way in. And that's the halacha. Is there eitzah? Is there something you could do? So there's a couple things you could do. You could send them with a phone, and you could tell them to call me when you get there, and you hand somebody. When they get there, they hand the adult the phone, and they ask the adult, to supervise, to watch that they were toivel. And the kids are allowed to be toivel. It's just that you need adult to tell you that it happened. So the adult, the gadol, tells them that it happened, tells you that it happened, and that's great. Or you bring the kid with a paper and a pen, and you have an adult sign and put his phone number that he saw the tefillah. That would also work. Or in theory, not that anybody would ever give their kids a smartphone, but in theory, if they would give their kids a smartphone and they would be on a WhatsApp call with them and they would see the kid being toivel, b'meila, that would work. But once again, it's not just that you see the kid hanging out around the mikvah. You have to actually see the item going into the water. But if you could see the item going into the water, that would work. Because you wouldn't need their nemanis. You saw it yourself. Okay, now, what about the katan himself? So the katan himself actually could use, let's say the 10-year-old was toivel. So what do you have to do? Actually I got a story before I do the 10-year-old toivel. So 2 weeks ago I sent my 13-year-old and my 11-year-old to go to be Tevilas Keilim in the mikvah. And I told my 13-year-old, listen, make sure you watch what my 11-year-old does, because we don't trust him. Who says he's really, you can't trust him just because he says he was Tevilas Keilim. So I told my 13-year-old, make sure you watch him to make sure he's Toivel. And by the way, I told you the eights of asking the adult. It doesn't always work out so simple. Because I'll tell you a ma'aseh shahaya that happened 2 weeks ago. My kids come back from the mikvah and they tell me, see this big frying pan? So we were trying to toivel it, but we couldn't, since it was big with a big handle, we couldn't get it fully submerged into the Keilim mikvah. So there was an adult there that told us that it's fine. I think it's fine. I think you could be toivel in stages. First do this part and then do that part. But he wasn't positive, so he Googled it. He asked Google, are you allowed to toivel that way? And Google said, it's a machlokes. Apparently, I don't know if he knows how to read Google, but apparently Google said it's a machlokes whether you could do it that way. And this nice guy, Paskin, that he says it's fine, you could be toivel that way. And Baruch Hashem, my kids knew better. And my kids told him, I'm sorry, but that's for sure not the halacha. And the halacha for sure is that tefillah doesn't count. So you have to know how to be toivel. And as a side point, let's actually speak about the tefillah. You need the item fully submerged in one shot. You cannot do this side and then that side. And it's best, by the way, if you get rid of all air bubbles inside the item, because once there's air bubbles, it's hard to know if the entire item was touching the water. Okay, so what if the 10-year-old is toivel? Now what's the halach? I have to go and re-toivel everything. However, now I'm going to re-toivel everything without a bracha. Because, maybe he was toivel. However, the 10-year-old himself, he could still use the item without a tefillah because he knows that he was toivel. Okay, so that's good for some nice stories. Fine. Next. By the way, a goy can toivel. He just needs supervision. So let's say the mashgiach has 400 new things to be toivel. It's too big of a job, but the mashgiach could go with the two goyish workers, and as long as he's overseeing it, they could toivel everything together. Now, why don't we trust the katan? So the Taz says, once again, it's nemanis, and he says we don't trust the katan because it's deraisa. So that's what we keep Eger. Therefore, by being toivel glass, which is only derabanan, so that's what we keep Eger, we would trust the katan. But l'maisa, not everybody agrees to this. Now, something interesting. The Shulchan Aruch over here in Yeridea implies that you can't be toivel utensils on Shabbos. It won't work to be toivel on Shabbos. You're not allowed to do it. I shouldn't say it won't work. I take that back. But you're not allowed to be toivel on Shabbos. It would work if you did it, but you're not allowed to be toivel on Shabbos. Why? It's nira ketikin mana. it appears like you're fixing this utensil. You bring it from unusable to usable. Generally, when you bring something from broken to fixed, it's called tikkun mana. It's also on Shabbos. So this looks like it because since you're bringing it from unusable to usable, it appears like tikkun mana. Therefore, you're not allowed to be toivel on Shabbos. However, interesting that the Mechaber in Or Chaim in Hilchos Shabbos, he says that you could be toivel on Shabbos. However, yesh oisrin, there are those that aser. And he concludes that the Iker din is you're allowed to do it. However, your Shemayim should be makbid not to be toivel on Shabbos. Now, the Ramah says a little trick. Once again, it works. It's just, and it's not tikkun mana. It just appears like tikkun mana. It appears like you're fixing the utensil. But you're not actually fixing the utensil. It was never broken. So he says, here's a trick. You take the cup, you stick it into the mikvah, you fill it up with water, and you take a drink. Now it doesn't look like tikkun mana. It looks like you're taking a drink. And the Mela, that's a trick that would work. Once again, obviously, it has to be a proper eruv to make this a possibility. Now, nowadays, so if you're toiveling by a mayan, a natural spring, and you fill it up with water and you take a drink, that I'm fine with. Even if there's a sign next to it, this water isn't potable, it's fine because nobody knows what potable means anyways. Nah, it means that you're not allowed to drink it, but people drink anyways, let's face it. So therefore, if you go fill up in the mayan and you drink it, you're okay. Now, if you go to the Keilim mikvah and you fill it up with water and you take a drink, nowadays, I think that's for sure a problem. Nobody's going to tell me that isn't near a tikkun mana. Because, it just looks like you're taking a drink. That would only work if you're accustomed and it's normal for you to take drinks from the Keilim mikvah. And if it's normal for you to drink from the Keilim mikvah, you have much bigger problems than your problem of having this glass which is entitled for Shabbos. Trust me, that's a big problem if you're drinking from the Keilim mikvah. Capish? Okay. So l'maisa nowadays, you want to do it on Shabbos. You want to dip it into the spring, take a drink, beseder. But if you want to do it at the Keilim mikvah, problem. If you want to use this knife, that does not work to dip the knife in the spring because you can't take a drink from the knife. Unless maybe it could look like you're washing the knife. It's interesting. I don't remember seeing anybody discussing it. Maybe. Okay. Now, fine. If there is a suffix, if my metal utensil requires tefillah. I have, one of the 100 different things is my cookie cutter piece, which I might maybe one day use for watermelon. I don't know. So you get into a case where it's a suffix, different poskim say different things. It's a suffix if it requires tefillah. Do you have to toivel it? So the Piskei Tshuva quotes the Pri Chodesh that says that sorry, I jumped ahead. Sorry. Does this thing which is a suffix, whether you have to toivel? Do you have to toivel a suffix? So yeah, suffix the Rabbanan Lahachmer. Do you make a bracha? No. Suffix the Rabbanan Lahakal. So it's interesting, based on different column, this metal item, which is a suffix, in terms of requiring to tefillah, we go l'chomra, but in terms of the bracha, we go l'kula, and you don't make a bracha. What about glass? If you have a suffix, whether this glass item requires tefillah or not, is it considered kli suda or not? Machlokes poskim, let's say. So, the Piskei Tshuva quotes the Pri Chodesh that says no, because suffix d'Rabbanan Lahakal. The Gra and the Chachmas Adam, they also say no tefillah is required. Suffix d'Rabbanan Lahakal. The Chazon Ish says, wait a second, no, you do need to be toivel because it's a davar sheyesh le'matirim. Now, a lot of people like throwing around suffix d'Rabbanan Lahakal. you have to be very careful because there's lots of different klolim that need to be juggled. Zot the Chazon Ish, this is not, you can't apply stuff to Rabban Lahakal because the davar sheish lematirin. What does the davar sheish lematirin mean? Something that could be fixed. Meaning, you're allowed to rely and go l'kula on the suffix when you're stuck in the suffix. But over here, I could get out of the suffix very easily. I could just go toivel it. And therefore, I can't rely on stuff to Rabban Lahakal at the Chazon Ish. Now, if it was something that was expensive or required a tremendous amount of tircha to be matir that suffix, we wouldn't call it a davar sheish matirin. But something that's easy and cheap to take care of, we would call a davar sheish matirin. Now, there's two arguments against the Chazon Ish. The first argument against the Chazon Ish, we're going to call it the Rosh Shlomo Zalman argument. Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says, he argues, that we only say that davar sheish matirin overrides suffix d'Rabbanan lahakol when you're dealing with a chazik yisura. When you're dealing with something that you know is for sure chayav, but now it's a suffix, or you know for sure was chayav, but there's a suffix if right now it is chayav. So there, if it's a davar sheish matirin, that will override suffix d'Rabbanan lahakol, and you would still require tefillah. But over here, which I never knew in the first place if it was ever chayav, then we will not say that the fact that it's a davar sheish matirin that will override suffix d'Rabbanan lahakol, and we could still apply the klal of suffix d'Rabbanan lahakol in order to allow us not to be toivel. The second challenge on the Chazon Ish is that we only say that you can't rely on suffix d'Rabbanan lahakol by a davar sheish matirin when the suffix was based on a suffix in mitzias. But if the suffix is based in a suffix in psak, that's not called davar sheish matirin that we go against suffix d'Rabbanan lahakol. Because you have something concrete to rely on. When it's a suffix in mitzias, who knows what really happened? Go be matter the suffix. But when it's a suffix in psak, you know you have what to rely on, suffix d'Rabbanan lahakol. Now, if it's something which you knew that this glass, for example, you knew was chayiv in tefillah, it's just that, I don't know, was I toivel this already or was I not toivel? I can't remember. Does anybody remember if I brought this to the mikvah or not? Then the halacha would be that you would have to be toivel it. Because that is a chazik isur. We knew there was a chiyuv. We don't know whether you pattered the chiyuv. And it's something which is a suffix in mitzias. Were you toivel or were you not toivel? And therefore, such a thing, you would be toivel. Okay, when a ger is megayer, does he need to be toivel his keilim? Because once again, he was a guy, it was owned by a guy, and now it's owned by a yid. So do we say it requires tefillah, even though there was no buying or selling or matana or anything? So the darech, simply speaking, you would say yes, guy to yid, yes. The darech tshuva says yes, you require tefillah. Tzitz Eliezer says yes, you require tefillah. The Reitzberger Rav, I don't know who that is, says no, you don't require tefillah. It's not comparable to Midyan, and I definitely hear the svara because there has been no transaction here. I hear the svara, but it is a chiddush. The Shem Shmuel quotes his father, none other than the Avnei Nezer, as saying that when the ger is toivel, kedusha transfers onto his body and spreads onto his keilim as well. So his keilim don't require tefillah. Why? Not because there's no chiyuv to be toivel, but it's as if they were toivel. The kedusha spread onto the keilim. Quite a chiddush. I don't know when the Shem Shmuel was quoting his father. Was he quoting his father with wearing his Avnei Nezer, Lamdasha Paisik hat? Or was he quoting his father, the Sakachava Rebbe hat? Was he wearing the Sakachava Rebbe hat and saying a Chassidish Shavart? I'm not sure exactly. It sounds like the Avnei Nezer said this halacha, so we're going to call it the Avnei Nezer, just to be clear, they're the same person, Sakachava Rav and the Avnei Nezer. And he was a great Pesach and a Rebbe, but he seems to be saying this lehalacha. Lamaisa, we're going to tell a ger that's megayer to be toivel his kelim. Now, if you use a untoiveled kli, the halacha is that the food is still kosher. Now, is there an isser to use a kli that didn't have tefillah? So, I mean, you're not allowed to use it until you're toivel. What if you can't toivel? What if there's no mikveh in town? What if it's COVID and they closed all the mikvahs? So, based on the Ramah, it seems to be there is an isser to use it. As the Bir Halach and Shabbos says, this isser is the Rabbanon. Now, one thing I just want to throw out, because we mentioned COVID. I remember they were talking about being toivel in the snow. For the fun of it, I went to go try it and test it to be toivel in the snow. It's very, very difficult. It's very hard to get everything fully submerged. Don't try it at home. Not so simple. I didn't have an easy time. Just throwing that out there. Okay. Now, Reb Shlomo Kluger says the chi of tefillah which is deraisa, is only on the owner. For somebody else to be toivel his thing, it wouldn't be a deraisa. And furthermore, eating from a non-toiveled item is a derabanan. So if you have a tzarek gadol, for example, the Baal Tshuva eating by his parents' house, with which the kelim aren't toiveled but are kosher, that would be safek derabanan. But tzarek gadol, and you'd be allowed to. Sorry, shtei derabanan. But tzarek gadol, you would be allowed to. And especially if the keli was glass, that would add a third derabanan to the mix. And furthermore, Shlomo Zalman says the isser of you're not allowed to use the keli is a kanas. That kanas only applies to the owner; it doesn't apply to others. And Rav Moshe Sternbach says furthermore, it's true the Ramah goes with the psak that there's an isser to use the keli before tefillah, but there's still a pisrei rid, which is matter. So b'shas tzchak, you could use the keli even though it wasn't toiveled. Once again, not your own keli. You can use the other person's keli. But once again, when you're not in tzarek gadol, when you're not in shas tzchak, you cannot use a keli that wasn't toiveled, and especially the owner himself certainly cannot use the keli if it wasn't toiveled. You know that halacha that you're allowed to use it once before it was toiveled? Somebody made that up, and he knew how to spread the word, because that halacha is not true, false. No posuk ever said it. No posuk does say it, and no posuk ever will say it. It's not true, fallacy, false, myth. You cannot use the keli one time before you were toivel it. Okay. Now, let's one or two more things. That the Chacham Sodom says by Pesach time, don't sell your pots to the guy. Because when you buy it back, you're going to have to be toivel it. And the Chazon Ish Tzaka did this. After Pesach, he would go Tevilas Keilim. He would Tevilas Keilim? How could he do that? Such a tremendous hassle. So I heard apparently he was able to fill it up in one little shopping bag. You know, he didn't have a million different things. He was able to fill up all his Keilim in one little shopping bag, plastic shopping bag, and like that, he was Toivel. Now the Aruch HaShulchan says, the minhag is, when after you buy the Keilim back from the guy after Pesach, that you do not toivel. Why not? This is going to be very difficult. So he gives two deichik terutzim l'chayra. One is it's not comparable to the purchase of midyan. Okay, in what way? Tzarchin. Or it's only a technical sale. That doesn't make me feel so good about mechiras chametz. I'm not so in love with that. L'maisa, nowadays, the general way that our chametz is sold is they use a lashon like they're selling the blias in the kelim, but they don't actually sell the kelim, so they avoid this shayla. But it's not so simple because that's a little bit of a weird sale. One could question, could you really sell blias of a kelim? So it's a little questionable. Blias are the taste that is absorbed in the walls of the kelim. They're only selling the taste that is absorbed in the walls of the kelim, and they don't sell the actual kelim. Whether such a thing is sellable is what to debate. So therefore, that is the downside of the way that they currently do it. But the upside is we don't get into the shaylas of do you have to be toivel your kelim. So thank you for listening, and that's it, I think, for Tevilas Keilim. Yes, there's more. There always is more. But thank you for listening, and have an amazing week.